This is the reason why this day is known as one of the darkest days in the UK market, and George Soros became to be known as the man who broke the Bank of England. In fact, he has also been found guilty by the French courts for insider trading. Cherry on the cake for Soros, the Black Wednesday was also seen as a political disaster. As a result, the Conservative Party that had governed UK for 19 years, they lost the elections and the new Labour Party rose to power. This is how George Soros broke the Bank of England and made a profit at the cost of UK's downfall. And mind you, it's not the only time he has done this. He has done it in Thailand, Malaysia, and even Russia. And here's is a glimpse of the same.
A master manipulator of the global order.
He's one of the richest men in the world.
What's it like to have a lot of money?
It gives you a degree of freedom. And it also gives you a degree of power.
He has consistently used his money to influence policy and people. He's been accused of undermining the sovereignty of countries, funding anti-national groups and fueling anti-national sentiment.
We could be looking at the biggest level of international political collusion in history.
He is one of the most feared men in the world.
He has an army at his service. Money, NGOs, universities, research institutions, and half the bureaucracy in Brussels. He uses this army to force his will on his opponents, like us Hungarians.
This is the history of George Soros, and this is what brings me to the second element in his report card, and that is his strange interference into the politics of other countries. And here's where his episode with India starts. George Soros is said to use an organization called Open Society Foundation to invest in NGOs, partners, and projects, eventually to interfere with the politics of different countries all across the world. And India is one of these many countries in which the Open Society Foundation operates. So the question is, why is George Soros considered to be so dangerous, and what exactly are the basis of these claims? Now people, like always, my job over here is not to impose my opinion and cloud your judgment, but to present these claims with the sources, and then it is completely up to you to decide what is right, what is wrong, who is dangerous and who is not. So here are the claims along with their sources. The first set of claims say that Soros is deliberately funding media companies in India to peddle a narrative against the government. One such company is this newspaper company called Scroll. As it turns out, Scroll is a direct beneficiary of the Media Development Investment Fund of George Soros. And many say that Scroll is a left-wing and biased organization. Now, to form your opinion, we'll give you the links of what Scroll writes about George Soros and what it writes about Modi and BJP. So you can read through those articles and then decide what you think of them. But the one thing that I got to tell you is that I have used some Scroll articles for my research, and I found both great articles with credible numbers as well as biased opinions. So I will leave the sources with you guys to decide whether Scroll is biased or it is not. The second set of claims say that there have been some Indian journalists who were appointed as Open Society Fellows by George Soros in the past. And even these journalists are said to propagate radical narratives against nationalism and the current government. For example, some newspapers say that author and journalist Bashrat Peer, who served as an Open Society Fellow from 2009 and 10, he is said to fuel a pro-Pakistani narrative in Kashmir. Now, from what our team has read, he spoke about his personal experiences of living in Kashmir and wanting to join the rebels. Now, technically, if you see, we are a democratic nation and anyone can actually express their views about our government, right? But at the same time, the other side of the argument says that if you use your freedom of speech to create chaos in the society, to create conflict in our country, that is wrong. So these are the two sides of the argument, and now I am sharing the links of his work in the description so that you can decide whether that is right or wrong, and is the George Soros connection making sense over here or not. And lastly, there are claims that say that Soros directly or indirectly funds the Indian intelligentsia to again propagate a narrative. For those who don't know, intelligentsia is the set of highly intellectual people in the society who often command a strong influence over the society. In our case, the claims say that Indira Jaising is a part of an NGO called Lawyers Collective. And this NGO is set to promote anti-government propaganda. And George Soros Open Society Foundation has actually donated a few crores to the tune of 4.1 crore rupees to this NGO. In fact, in 2016, the government of India had cancelled their FCRA license on the premise that they were using foreign contributions to achieve political objectives in India. In fact, the Supreme Court had issued notices and the CBI itself had also registered an FIR in the matter in 2018. Now, whether she was right in the matter or was she really promoting propaganda, we'll let you decide by attaching the articles of both from her perspectives and the articles that are related to the accusations in the description. Similarly, the next person who's accused of being influenced by Soros is Nobel Prize winning economist Amartya Sen himself. Amartya Sen and George Soros sit on the advisory council of an NGO called Namati, which is also funded by Open Society Foundation in India. And just like Indira Jaising, even Amartya Sen is set to propagate an anti-government propaganda. Now, if you ask me, guys, he is a Nobel Prize winning economist and he has more years in experience than I have lived on this planet. So I don't want to make a snap statement of whether what he writes is right or wrong. But what I'll do instead is put all the articles in front of you, and you as the audience can decide whether his criticism holds true or does it have some bias. And other than these claims, as it turns out, in 2016, after looking at the extensive funding of Soros across media, NGOs and other organizations, the Indian government itself put them on a watch list, which essentially meant that the Open Society Foundation could not fund any of these organizations directly, and a prior clearance from the Home Ministry itself is required to send money across to these FCRA registered organizations in India. These are the most significant types of claims made against George Soros and his funding framework in India. So do read through these sources and decide by yourself what is right and what is wrong, who is dangerous and who is not. And you know what, guys? There is one very important thing that you need to understand about 2023 as a year. This year is a precursor to the general elections of the biggest democracy in the world, and that is India. And we are becoming the battleground for both pro-government and anti-government narratives. And in the past 2 months itself, we've already seen the BBC's documentary, the Hindenburg report, and now this Soros comment. And keep in mind that the frequency of these external forces interfering with India is only going to keep on increasing till the elections of 2024. And I don't know if you realize this, but then in this entire drama and narrative warfare between the biggest forces in the world, the most important entity is not Adani, not Soros, not Congress, not even Modi, but it is you, the people of India. Everyone in the country and the world is shaping a narrative just so that they can get you to vote for a candidate of their choice. Therefore, you have an immense responsibility to not blindly trust anyone. So always remember, before you draw any conclusions, understand all the sides of the news and the sources properly. This is a story of Soros, his connection with India, and the precaution that you need to take before you jump to your conclusions. If this is very clear to you, I think you're sensible enough to take this further. That's all from my side for today, guys. If you learned something valuable, please make sure to hit the like button in order to make YouTube Baba happy. And for more such insightful business and political case studies, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.